back at it. It has been quite a while since I've done some real work on this album here. I have been blessed with a 3-day weekend. I was pretty gosh darn sure that I was going to have to work Saturday, which is yesterday. So luckily I didn't have to. Yay for me. So I've got to kind of get back in the flow with these Japanese stamps. It was kind of nice just to look at the first, I guess handful of pages that I have already worked on, semi-completed, that kind of stuff. I like it. I do. I am actually kind of surprised at myself that I just kind of put it on the shelf and left it alone. I had aspirations here. I'm going to fill this big, giant freaking album. I mean, in case you guys forgot, this thing's huge, right? And I printed these pages myself, and as I look at this, just like what I've done, I love this. Now, I do remember, I think I've done maybe at least one video, maybe two, about what I was going through to catalog these stamps correctly. If I recall, he did have many of them misidentified, so be it. You need to check anyways if you're going to put stuff in your album generally. So, just to kind of remind everybody, this is what the stock pages are like. I decided I'll take them out of his album one by one just to make it easier to use, to maneuver. And then go through and just start cataloging these and making sure that they're cataloged correctly, that he identified them correctly. And I do end up with a bunch of duplicates, which also just a quick reminder, what I ended up deciding with the duplicates is that I would be putting them in these clear 8S Vario pages. I think these are 8S. Yes, and just putting the cat number, really not a whole lot more to it. I just think that it's beautiful. Having these pages like this, I quite like that. And so I pick the best of what he has, and then put it in the album mounted. The additional duplicates I will put in these Vario pages. Excuse me. Which I totally love. I mean, I honestly totally love these pages. Aren't they pretty? The colors, the different cancels. This is the kind of stuff that I just don't want to get rid of. Like, you can see this number 69 here. That's actually a fancy cancel. That's pretty cool. And even though I can't really read or decipher any of these Japanese characters, I just think that they look awesome. What is that? Maybe it said quarantine or something. Interesting. Right? So I love this. I actually love this part of this here, where I'm glad I decided to do that. Instead of filling in all of the extra space like I did in my Mystic albums with a buttload of duplicates, this helps it look a little bit cleaner at least. So anyways, enough about all that. Time to begin the process again. It looks like I left off at number 119 here. So, a whole bunch of 119s. I'm going to pull all these out, go back in the catalog, and then re-familiarize myself with these stamps. I might even want to watch my other video just so I can recall what all of the kind of extra baloney I was going through to properly identify these was, because I can't. It's been months since I worked on this album. So, anyways, yeah, I'm gonna have to get fresh in my mind with all this again, and then. Still, I will say, sitting here looking at this, I do love this album. It's awesome. I love that I bought a printer and that DVD set with these album pages that I can just make my own like this. I mean, it really is. It's nice enough. These are nice pages. They look good. I'm not totally against the images being there from, the DVD set that I printed these albums off of. They were used pages, so be it. It's kind of nice because, it kind of shows me what I'm missing. And, anyways, let me jump back into moving right along with number 119 here and see what I get. And then I'm going to just keep working my way through. So I figured it'd be fun, you know. It's been a while since I've actually shared some work on my albums. It's honestly been a while since I've actually done some work on my albums. Life is hectic, a lot of work, blah, blah, blah. I'm tired a lot of the time. What could I say? You know? I mean, jeez. I work like a dog these days. Jeez. So anyways, glad to kind of get back into this. I do love this. Let's take a look at... let's see how many of these 119s he cataloged correctly, if any. Okay, now here's what I've decided. I just watched my other video, the whole thing. When I first started this album, it was interesting to see the thoughts that I had, the issues that I dealt with. So I'm glad that I watched that again to kind of touch base on what I was going through. Now, I think that it would be fun, why not, to let's go through it together. Let's do these 119s together. In that first video, I kind of just showed you, you know, some of the pages I had done, and then I ended up talking about some stamp resources, which I still think are actually pretty freaking awesome resources. I'm going to put the link in the description to my first video, where the second half of the video I actually discuss some recommended websites for free album pages, and then the Connect stamp catalog is the second thing that I talked about. So in case any of you guys wanted to see the first video in this, let's say, little series here of me working on this Japanese album, the link is in the description. Now anyways, I was just looking in the catalog, and like I was saying, I was trying to refamiliarize myself with what I need to deal with here to properly catalog and identify these stamps. So let's go through it together. Why not, right? So I'm going to pull out all of these 119s, and then we're going to hop in to my... Well, let's try to get them all. We're going to hop into the catalog, okay? And I want to share just what I was just thinking and looking at, and we'll go through the steps, each step one by one, to identify these. So, anyways, let me bring you down real quick. I have a feeling it'll just be easier and better for you guys to see up close like this. So, yeah, let's say here, this is a pretty clean one. So this is our supposed 119 stamp. You can see the design, what we're looking at. And so let's see how accurate or inaccurate this gentleman was in determining if these are 119s. I have suspicions that he probably made mistakes based off of experience in the past. Somebody wrote on that one. Man, this one's totally faded here. You can just see the color difference, so vibrant compared to that. Interesting. All right, well, let's hop in the album and see. Let's get like an overall view of what we need to be concerned with and what we're looking at. Alrighty, so you guys wouldn't know this. This is actually my third attempt to record this. I keep having issues, my microphone, my program, blah, blah, blah. Anyways, I'm trying, my thought is I want to give a nice, thorough walkthrough of my thought process as I'm doing this. So, you know, like I said, it's been many months since I've even been in here in this Japanese catalog trying to figure out any of these stamps. So I kind of need to get refamiliarized. I need to refresh myself. So my thought process on it is like this, pretty much. First thing, find the image design. Okay, we have A34s. You'll notice this has kind of a vertical center, whereas this one has a horizontal kind of design in the center. Ours is definitely like this, right? Our supposed number 119s. So we're definitely looking for an A34 design. Now, these releases, they cover A34, A35, and A36. As usual, when looking in these catalogs, they are in columns, right? And they go from top to bottom. So that's why we have our design here, It ends, we go up to the top of the next column. Here's our third design, and then here it starts to describe the issues. Now, objectively looking at this, we can see there's one issue here, another issue here, and then a third issue here. And then it switches to the next design for another stamp. So I don't know how else to say it, our stuff ends here. What we need to be concerned with. Except, of course, as usual, it has this indicator at the bottom where you do need to check a few later releases. It says see these other numbers to make sure that your stamps aren't these other numbers, because they did later releases later on that potentially could be your stamps, right? Now, in this, it says to see these numbers, and it also says for overprints, check these other numbers. Well, I'm not worried about the overprints. Our goal here is simply to look for number 119s. So overprints, not interested, don't care. None of them look to be overprinted anyway, so I'm going to ignore that. But we do still need to be concerned with that it could potentially be any of these other numbers. So, before I get into explaining the differences of these issues here, I'd like to go and jump and take a look at these other numbers to see what are they all about. Like, how similar are they? So, remember, we're looking for A34 here. And so let's go check at 212 and 213. Okay, so that's right here. A34 design, okay? So it should look like our stamp, but it says here these are coil stamps. I don't know if they're vertical or horizontal coils, but we know being coil stamps, they will be imperforate on either the left or right sides or the top and bottom, depending on what type of coil stamp they are. So that's simple enough for those numbers. So 212 to 213, all I've got to worry about is, are they coil stamps? Now, I'll shorten this up because I've already gone through this a couple times. They say check 239 to 41, 243, 245, all the way up to 255. Well, 239 to 255 are all actually just in the same release. Now, take a look at this. Right here, see? 239 to 254, or okay, 55. Pretty much all the, just like an additional issue, like a fourth issue for this design type, right? A34 is here. A34s are in here as well. So what's going on over here is the main differentiator for this issue is the watermark. Okay, these later issues, the last issues for this design, all have watermark 257. Now let's go back to our original releases here. What are we looking at here? Well, the first issue is unwatermarked. Okay, so that's real simple. The second issue has watermark 141. And the third issue, all that they've changed is the die size. So this will also have watermark 141. So for this whole, see these numbers section at the bottom of this issue, I can objectively say for any of these other numbers, 239 to 255, that would be only if I had watermark 257. Now, let's jump to the front of the album, or the front of the Japan section, and take a look at the watermark. So 141 is zigzag lines. Pretty straightforward. Actually, a really easy watermark to identify, which is nice. The 257 is curved wavy lines. Actually, still pretty easy to differentiate from the zigzag lines. So I like that they're easy. That's nice. Sometimes they're a pain in the butt to see, but this one is usually pretty clear cut to tell that you have zigzag lines, right? So I do like that about this issue. It makes it easy enough. So that kind of gives me like an overall perspective of what I'm looking for, here. I like to go to the bottom and see, how many other stamps could it be? Sometimes there is no other ones, and it's simply going to fall within, this category here, this little section. But every time it says C numbers, blah, 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 you've got to check those numbers because it could be them, right? So, anyways, now that I've kind of familiarized myself and gone over this. Very easy to miss this. Very easy to skip. You can be lazy and just not care. But the truth is, if you really want to identify your stamp correctly, you need to give attention to this little part down at the bottom of any of these sections, right? Any of them. Just like here you go. Here's this one with Mount Fuji. Down at the bottom, you need to see these other numbers, okay? Because it still could be them. Doesn't mean it's just going to be in here, right? Okay. So now, objectively, when I look at this, I'm thinking, okay, so it could be first issue, second issue, third issue, or that fourth issue, right, with Watermark 257. That's kind of like the main breakdown of this issue, right? So what am I looking at here? Well, it tells me we know it's A34. I already know that just from looking at that picture. It tells me the perfs. It tells me it's unwatermarked, the first release. Okay, so that's the only release out of all 4 of these issues for this design that is unwatermarked is the first. So if we were to check the watermark on all of these stamps, if they're not watermarked, it's very clear cut. It simply must be somewhere in here, in this section, right here. Now, if they happen to have watermarks, any of them, then they potentially could be the second release or this third release. Now, I wanted to talk about this. I have done this in other videos, but I like to reiterate this so that it might help somebody out there, because it can be confusing, especially if you're new. These listings, how to read them. Now, as we start in 1913, okay, they released these stamps with these perforations, and these stamps were unwatermarked. Then in 1914, they started printing a new issue with the same design, A34, but these stamps now have a watermark, 141, which is the zigzag lines. They're also now on granite paper, and they have a certain size design because they use what they're calling the old die, which would pretty much infer that they at some point did a new die, which, there you go, that's our third release. Now, I like to call it the trickle down. Like things trickle down in these catalogs, okay? So here they said it's watermark 141. They said it's granite paper. They said the size. And then you'll notice on this third release, they don't indicate the watermark. They don't indicate what kind of paper. Why is that? It's because none of that has changed. If the watermark had changed, or the paper type had changed, they would indicate it right here in these bold lines, saying, oh, now it's not watermark 141, it's watermark 232. You say, oh, okay. So they don't need to list this information again on the third release because it hasn't changed. They only will indicate what has changed, which so happens to be the die size. And it looks like the new die size, they did 2 methods of printing, flat plate or rotary. Okay? But we know that it's still going to be watermark. All these are going to have watermark 141 in granite paper. None of that changed. Also, another way you can tell, see, like here we have number 127. This is number 127A. A indicates like a variation, right? So what would be the variation? Would be that they used a different die plate, right? A new die. So we're taking our base stamp 127, which has all of these attributes, but we've now changed the size of the design, and that's what makes it 127A. While it is still the same stamp, same design, same watermark, same paper, they changed the die size, okay? Now it's 127A, and they released those from 1924 to 33, all right? So that's why, in my head, nobody else may do this, but I call it trickle down, where this information trickled down, and it's going to apply to the next release unless stated otherwise. And they didn't say anything had changed with the watermark or the granite paper. All that they indicate right here is that the die size has changed. And that's why it's still a 127, but it's really a 127A, because it's that stamp with a different die. Okay, so the image will be slightly different dimensions. Okay? Okay, guys, I'm sure a lot of you already knew that, but I like to hammer that home because it is confusing reading these catalogs, and I do hope that somebody out there might like clarification, you know. So, anyways, moving on. Now, objectively looking at this, like I have in front of me or next to me a stack of, I want to say probably about 10 of those supposed number 119s. So, what's going to be the first step that I'm going to decide to choose for identifying these? Well, I think personally the easiest step would be to check the watermark, because if they're all number 119s, then they all should not have any watermark. And if they really don't, then there's no question about it. They're going to fall in here, and then considering the denomination of a 3 cent or whatever, I can't remember what S stands for. Let's find out. Sen. Okay, sen. Okay. Sorry, I wanted to refresh. So, that like, if they're unwatermarked, it's a done deal. They really are number 119s. So, the only other thing to even worry about is if they were in a booklet pane, but we'll cross that bridge if we have to, but I highly doubt it. And then, so, watermark, yes or no? If they're unwatermarked, boom, they're going to be this first issue from 1913. If they are watermarked, then they potentially could be this second issue or third. And if the watermark that they have happens to be 257, I think, then it would actually be that fourth release. But first step, I want to just check if they're watermarked or not, and then if any of them are, I can bother to get into which watermark does it have, what kind of paper, what are the dimensions of the design, all that good stuff. So let's go ahead right now and check the watermarks first and foremost. Okie dokie, let's get all these moved away. Set up our little watermark tray. Dump a pretty good amount of watermark fluid because I'm checking so many stamps here. Let's just toss them in. Oh, see, right off of the bat, right away. That is clearly, here, let me turn up this ISO. Might be better for you. That is clearly the wavy line watermark. And then this one is clearly the zigzag. So immediately, right off the bat, boom, the first two misidentified. Okay, that was the wavy, right? Okay, wavy line. I'm going to stack these so that I can keep them separate. So curved watermark, zigzag watermark. I wonder how many of these. I'm a little surprised because it's not hard to check the watermark, right? I'm a little surprised he didn't. Just even looking through the camera, clearly both of these are the curved wavy line watermark. So here we go. That was 257, right? So interesting. Those would be the fourth releases. There shouldn't actually be anything else I have to check on those. That's the only release that has that watermark. Okay, now I don't see a watermark here. So this looks like a legitimate number 119. Beautiful. Glad to actually have one. Yay. Okay, so the real unwatermarked 119s go right there. Okay, I don't see a watermark on that one either, so that's actually a 119. Cool. Okay. Keep them separate. Boy, before this one even got into the watermark fluid, I can see the watermark. It's so funny. Okay, that's definitely a zigzag. That guy. Pretty straightforward. And this is a curved wavy line watermark. Really glad that I did this as a first step. I think it was the right way to go. Look at that. Zigzag. Okay. Zigzag. Done deal. Whoops. Yeah. Another zigzag. Yes, I think so. Let me put a little bit more. I've only got a couple more stamps to check. Yes, okay. Definitely zigzag. Yes. Let's see how we do. Definitely watermarked, right? I'm going to call that a zigzag as well. I don't know. It's got to be zigzag. The wavy lines aren't, the lines in the curved wavy line stamp aren't as bold as the lines in the zigzags. Alright, let's soak up that juice, and that one is definitely watermarked, and it looks like the curved wavy lines. Wow. So out of all of those, I only had 2 actual number 119s. And like I was saying, I don't even have to check anything else. The fact that they're unwatermarked means that they're 119s. Like, done deal. So, very cool. I'm going to have to let these all dry. And then, for fun, even though I shouldn't really need to, since I don't really need the variations, at least right now, we will go through and identify these stamps, see if they're old die, new die. Now, actually, these curved wavy line ones don't require any of that either. So all that matters is I will need to identify the ones with watermark 141, the zigzags. Those I need to determine if they're new or old die. Otherwise, everything else is pretty straightforward. All of these curved wavy lines will be the 4th issue, right? Let me set those aside. And then these ones unwatermarked are actually 119s. And then we have this stack here that needs to be identified properly. I think it's worth doing as well because I will end up in that section eventually. Whatever it was, 239 to 255. I'm not there now, but eventually, working on this album, yeah, I'll actually be there. So why not? This way I can have them pre-identified. Alright, cool. Well, so this went really smoothly. Logical first step. I'm going to go ahead and put these 119s in the album just to have them like checked off my list. And then these curved wavy line ones, I'll figure out what I'm going to do here. Actually, I just thought, why not share? So I'm like, well, which one would I put in my album? Well, it's going to be pretty straightforward. I'm putting that one. It's way cleaner. It isn't nearly as faded. Also, on the back of this one, it's got creases. See those big vertical creases? No thanks. This is a much better stamp. And I kind of wish I had a better perf at the top left corner. Looks like maybe a pulled perf or something, but whatever. It's clearly night and day. Which one would look better in the album will be that one. There she is, all pretty, right where she belongs. Unfortunately, I just am a big old freaking klutz and went ahead and bent the clear cover on the mount, so it's got a kind of ugly little line there, but whatever. Completely my fault, gosh darn it. But yeah, there she is sitting at home. Now I put the other duplicate in my extras Vario page. One thing that is kind of a bummer is it's out of order, which I'm not going to stress about. I was stressing about trying to keep all these in order, 113, 127, keeping them in numerical order, but that's the problem when you're trying to identify these stamps that can have later releases and fill this out at the same time is, clearly like these other ones, like this 1.5 cent. He probably had that as, like number 111 or something like that. But it was really 129 because it had watermark 257, or something like that. So it's hard for me to I don't know, it's just a little extra crap to deal with to keep these all in order, and I'm just not going to bother caring anymore. I just don't care. Really, the whole purpose of these kind of Vario sheets is just to be able to look at them all. And while I'd like them to be in order, I don't think it's such a huge deal. I don't really care that much, I decided. So yeah, these will be out of order, but that's where that extra went, that 119. And then, yeah, so what are we moving on to next? We're going to see about... I stuck all those ones with the Watermark 257. I stuck all those in a stock card, and we'll deal with them when I reach that point in the album. But here are all these zigzag Watermark stamps. As a matter of fact, you can see pretty clearly on some of them that they are granite paper. You can see all those fibers. This one is just a whole bunch of fibers, so... yeah, all of these we need to check, and you can even see on like this one, you can sort of see the zigzag watermark even without watermark fluid. So let's check and identify all of these and figure out what they are, and then sort them appropriately. So don't need the watermark tray anymore, we've covered that. So let me think here. Next we're going to have to check I believe we're going to have to measure the horizontal border. So let me just verify that real quick. Okay, right. So yeah, horizontal border is what we're going to measure. The old die is 19 millimeters wide across the horizontal border of the image. And the new die, regardless of if it's flat plate or rotary plate printed, will be 18.5. So go ahead and get my gauge here. Am I using the right? Yes, I am. Hold on, let me think about this. It's been a sec. Okay, now the short story is I just checked this and it's 18.5. But so what I do is I'm going to use my handy dandy measuring gauge with my millimeter grid. I'm going to measure the horizontal border. I'm actually going to turn the stamp sideways to check the bottom border. And I'm just going to layer this on top. And you have to be, you know, pretty precise. It's a little tedious sometimes. Oopsie, I'm way off. Okay. So I'll be honest, it's really hard, you guys, to do this with the camera literally right in front of my face where I need my head to be. So, but that's the gist. You line up the border as best you can, and the reason I turn it over to the side was because on this vertical axis of this grid, it actually has a section where it breaks it down into 16, 17, 18, 19.5 millimeters and stuff. So measuring the bottom of the stamp is really the horizontal border, but I turn it over and use the vertical side of this grid. And this one, without being super precise, like I said, it's really hard with the camera in my face, but this one's clearly 18.5. It does not reach 19. So this having an 18.5 millimeter horizontal border on this design indicates that it is a new plate, or a new die, I'm sorry, new die printing. So this should be the third printing. And then the only other thing to determine here is it flat plate or is it rotary? Well, if it's flat plate, the vertical border will be 22 millimeters. If it's rotary, it'll be 22.5. So let me go ahead and measure that. Okay, so it is without question 22.5. It moved. Darn, I was trying to slide it. So let me get this lined up again. 22.5. Now that means that's rotary. Okay. I will mention also something I've been doing with this grid is I also have been slapping the magnifying glass over it, which definitely helps. And I don't know how well you guys can even see, but we do not make it to 23. Even as I look at it with the naked eye, I can tell it's clearly 22 and a half. So that's it. So what does this mean? It means that we've got ourselves a number 131B right here. And it just so happens to be rotary plate printed. Okay, so I get to grab myself a nice little stock card, and I like to reuse them, so I have to bother erasing stuff. But I'm going to go ahead and start a stock card for these 131Bs. I'm going to check all the rest of them here. I don't think I have to do it in real time. I think you all get the gist. And let's see what I end up with. How many of these are 131? Well, so I think that they're all... Well, we'll just have to see how many 131Bs or how many of them are 131s. Okay, I'll be right back. Alrighty, so after everything I have come up with, I have one number 131B that is a flat plate compared to 4 131Bs that are rotary plate printed. And we're talking difference here, 0.5 millimeter, right? By 22 or 22 and a half. Now, I want to say, some of these, I have to make a judgment call. You know, like when I look at the grid on this gauge here, and it's really hard to see, and I don't know if you'll be able to see through here, but let's say between 19 and 20, which is like right there at the tip of my finger, right there. There are half lines that are a little bit more faint than the bolder lines, but those help me figure out 19 and a half versus 1920. That's why I love this little section right here in this grid. God, I love this section so much. They don't have it at the lower part, but up here, yeah, they have 0.5 millimeter measurements. So what I was going to say is often in general, and especially with these stamps, I run into a scenario where I will have the upper border just be a hair below like 22 and a half, and I have to decide, well, if it's supposed to be 22 or 22 and a half, if I'm measuring it correctly, it should be exactly one of those two. Well, not always, right? Sometimes it's slightly below 22 and a half. like let's say it's in between 22 and 22 and a half. Well, what do you choose? Do you say it's flat plate or do you say it's rotary press? Because it's larger than 22, but it's smaller than 22 and a half. You know, these minuscule little measurements can be tedious sometimes. And the question would be, well, if it's 22.25 instead of 22.5, is it really a flat plate that has expanded? Or is it a rotary plate that has shrunk? I mean, I don't know. You know what my guts tell me, the way that I do it, is if it's 22 and a half is a rotary, I need it to be either right at that 22 and a half millimeter line, or I mean just barely kissing it. Like, and if it's 22 of that kind of halfway between 22 and 22 and a half, I need it to be closer to 22. You know, I just kind of pick and choose. If you've got, you know, if you have your 3 lines here, 22.5, 22, and 22.25, somewhere in the middle, right? And this is just a 0.5 millimeter from here to here. If it falls here, which is in between, it's closer to the 25 or 22.5. I will call it a rotary. If it falls here, it's less than halfway, you know, so I will call it a flat. And that's how, what is wrong with this pen? But that is how I reason through this. I say, okay, well, I mean, whichever one it's closer to. Like if it's right here and it is just kissing this 22.5, I'm going to call it a rotary. You know, I'm going to be pretty confident about that. You know, it's the same for here. If it's right here and it's not quite on the line, but just above it, I'll call it a flat. Okay? And so, yeah, if it falls right in the middle, what do you do then? What do you do? I don't know. I really don't know. I mean, then you just freaking just choose. I don't know. Send it in for expertization. I mean, like if it's really that important to you, I just don't know. Now, something to mention on this listing, which I do actually find a little bit unique, is no matter whether they are rotary or flat, they are still all 131Bs, right? Doesn't even matter. They don't have their own listing. They didn't designate a different issue depending on whether they're flat or rotary plate printed. So I feel like most collectors just wouldn't care. I mean, who cares? Like I'm saying, I don't even think it's really necessary to go through this step. If all you're trying to do is identify what stamp it is, there you go. All of these are 131Bs. But if you did want to be nitpicky and you wanted to go that extra mile, then yeah, you can determine if they're flat or rotary plate. But it isn't really necessary, at least for my purposes here. So I wanted to go through that just for fun, but no, I didn't really have to, frankly. It doesn't really matter. There's not another place for me to put them in the album or anything like that. So, yeah, it just doesn't really matter, which is unusual. I find that most stamps will have a different issue. Like it was originally flat plate because that's the older style, and then the new release will be rotary because that's the newer style. I find them generally separated like that, but that isn't the case here. So, okay, then it's just up to you how far you want to go with it, right? Interesting. So, you know, after all of that, I have my one little actual number 131 extra here. 131 extra. Hold up. I'm getting confused. Okay, jeepers, man. Sorry, guys. I get confused myself here. So, all of these 131Bs measured 18.5 across the horizontal axis. Well, I did have one that measured 19 with confidence. So, this is actually number 131. Okay, and so this is the old die. This is the only one that had the old die measurement of 19 millimeters across the horizontal axis. So the only ones specifically that matters rotary or not, or that could be rotary or not, are actually the new die. Okay, the old die, no such thing. It's just simply 19. These ones, 18.5 horizontal, but then they could be 22 or 22.5 vertical, and that's the rotary or flat plate. Okay, so yeah, geez, I confused myself there for a second. I was like, whoa, wait a minute, what is this thing? Oh yeah, it actually is a 131. So interesting stuff. And I didn't see any imperforate sides on any of these, so I don't have to worry about booklet stamps or coil stamps or any of that kind of stuff. So there you go. They're all cataloged now. Of course, when I don't make videos and I actually just focus on what I'm doing, I do run through these a lot faster. But yeah, this took a little while just to get all this down and, you know, try to record it properly for you guys. So hope you enjoy it. I mean, I think it's fun sometimes to run through the sequence of everything. So I figured, heck, while I'm well, I've got it here. I might as well go ahead and put my 131 in the album where it belongs. Let me give it a little lick and stick. Okay. Try not to bend this one. I can't believe I did that on the last one. Get that pressed down well enough. Okay. Welcome home, buddy. So this will be number 131. Really small, but whatever. Kind of hard to read on that one. 30. Darn it. So annoying. I don't like that. I had a line going to there, so you can say that's 130, but whatever. Gosh, this is just like I was saying in the last video, the problem with this album. I'm pretty sure it was made for stamps to be hinged while I'm mounting them, and you just have no space around or in between to write anything. But whatever. So, just to kind of, maybe I could be even more clear here if I just put a little arrow. Oh god, it's ugly. This is all going badly. Okay, I'm going to let that dry and erase that arrow, if you can call it that. So anyway, now, here's my final thought here. It is, let me get this out of here. This. Now that I'm doing this again, I'm kind of like, oh yeah. What I probably was doing and probably should be doing is to simplify this for myself. See, this whole going all the way up to 255 thing. Well, you know, like I just did 119s. Well, if he's misidentified them, that means that it could be. Like, let's take a look at like this 121s. He's got a bunch of those, so they could be 121s. They could be. What is that? Sorry. Okay, 5 cent. They could be 121s. They could be 133s. They could be 133As, or they could be 243. Okay, so I think what I was doing was I was skipping forward. Like you see the blank spots. I figured this out before and I forgot, unfortunately. But I should go and pull like all of those numbers and just identify them all at once, because like that 119, right? It could be 131. Well, I got to go through the same crap with these ones. I might as well have already pulled them out and just done them all together. So, just a thought, you know. Whoops. I'm glad I realized that again. But I was wondering, like, it's just been too long. I couldn't remember how I was doing this. But okay, so hold on. Let me turn you around. So yeah, I wish I had realized that, so I could have done that. But I want to say that this image design, right, A34, this section, I think is going to be one of the last tedious sections, because of all of these potential stamps that they could be, that I might have to deal with for a while. You know, as I look through this album, the next stamps that come along the way, they start to get a little bit more unique. They're less of this old style, you know, and they're starting to look more unique. I think they're going to be much easier to identify, basically, after I make it past this page in the album. So, yay! I'm freaking happy about that. There's no doubt that the earlier stamps are the hardest to identify, right? You just got all these stupid variations and different printing methods and all this baloney to deal with. I think that goes for probably every country. I mean, if you're talking China, U.S., like Japan, France, I mean, what country do you want to pick? Like, all of them generally have harder to identify earlier issues. So that's one thing I'm looking forward to a little. Is once I'm not that far. Once I get through this next page and I identify all these, kind of get through this issue, I really do think it's going to just simply get easier. I'll start running in the stamps. It just won't have so many issues. It'll be like, here, this one was 1930 and it's got a dove on it, and that's the issue. If you've got that image, you've got that stamp. So I'm looking forward to that. I would like to move a little faster. This is a huge album. It's over 200 pages, and I can't even recall if it has back of book or not. I think it does. Oh yeah, it has offices in China and all kinds of other stuff. So those actually, once I get to back a book, those might again become a little bit more difficult to deal with. But I really feel like I'm about to break a threshold here where it's going to get easier and I'm going to be able to move through this faster, start filling this thing out a bit more. I have much work ahead of me in this album, and I'm glad to have picked it back up. I was kind of waiting for something to naturally appeal to me. Like, I have lots of different things that I'm doing at any given time. And amazingly, working on albums, I've kind of put to the wayside for many months. And I've just been like keeping busy doing other things. And I like building these albums. It's awesome. Sometimes I'll start an album and get cold feet for a while. And that kind of happened with this Japanese album. Didn't happen with China. China, I just ran out of money and stamps. But anyway, just wanted to share a little bit of the walkthrough with stuff, guys. I mean, when this album is done, it will be something I can be proud of. Now, I do want to say that I have been strongly considering buying a Palo album. I don't have one, never had one. They seem really nice. Based on my experience with my Mystic Heirloom Hingeless albums, I kind of want that back. But I have to swallow the fact that I'm going to have to pay probably $300 to $400 to get one of those Hingeless Palo albums. And I don't know what country I would want to commit that kind of investment into. Whatever country it is, I better have a lot of their stamps so I can fill it out. And I have to like it too. So I'm not sure what country I'd want to pull that trigger on yet, but that's a thought that's something I want. It's something I want, and I've wanted it ever since I started this album. The stupid issues I've had with not having enough space and the mounts being super close together, no room to write anything. If you get those Palo albums, I mean, the mounts are already on the pages. Everything's already been spaced perfectly. It will make it easier to have a cleaner, prettier, more perfect album, and I kind of want that. This will be cool enough. Like I know I like this, and I'm gonna keep doing this. Because when I just go through the first 4 or 5 pages that I've actually finished so far, oh man, I think they look great. I like them. Even if I had issues with the mounts, whatever. I think that they're pretty and they're awesome. And I made it, and that makes you feel a certain way. But like when I was filling out my Mystic albums, I mean, it is so nice not to have to cut a single mount. Not to have to write anything, like the Scott numbers are there, everything's there. You can just see everything. it's just a really nice experience. It's that premium experience that you pay for, which isn't necessary, and most collectors wouldn't do. Like most collectors are not gonna pop $400 for a Hingeless album. Let's be honest. But man, are they nice. They are nice. And it makes the whole experience of filling them out simplified, streamlined, and just clean and easy. So, one of these days, when my finances are better, I do want to get a Palo album and I want to fill that thing out. But I just don't know what country. So, anyways, that's going to do it for now. I realized that we didn't actually do a whole lot of work or make a lot of progress in this album, but I assume this video is probably run long enough at this point, and I just felt like doing this morning. I felt like getting in there and get back in the catalog and start doing this again. So, hope you guys enjoyed that short little journey with me, and of course I'll be back later on with another video. Who knows what it'll be? I don't know. Maybe cabinets or something, but as always, I really appreciate you guys watching. You guys are a bunch of really great people. Intelligent, nice, fun, so I wish all of you the best, as always. And like and subscribe if you feel like it. It does help me out. I'll catch you guys on the next episode. See ya.